The FCC has increasingly become a force for evil under the Trump administration, not the least of which is because of their opposition to net neutrality regulations, which, as you know, from the Obama era have been repealed by Trump's FCC. And the big news this week, this is a major story, and it's not getting as much coverage as it should, partially because some people don't recognize how big it is, partially because there were like 10 other scandals in the last 48 hours. The big news is that the FCC has admitted this week it wasn't actually hacked. You might remember that back during the public comment period around the net neutrality repeal, the FCC said we are going to have a period of, I don't remember how many weeks it was, during which people can write in and they can tell us, we want you to repeal net neutrality or we don't want you to repeal net neutrality. And the FCC claimed that a DDoS attack, a denial of service attack, a hack, took down the public comment system. And as a result, the system went down, right? We got hacked. The system went down. We can't take public comments. Sorry. However, former Verizon lawyer and current FCC chairman Ajit Pai has now admitted there was no hack. It simply wasn't true. And here's the just absolute goldmine. Ajit Pai is blaming the Obama administration because even though the lie was made during the Trump administration and by the Trump FCC while trying to repeal Obama-era net neutrality regulations, Ajit Pai says that the Trump FCC inherited a culture from the Obama administration, which led to the lying. So listen, it's basically Obama. So Obama might as well have been personally lying as far as Ajit Pai is concerned here.
Thanks, Obama. He did it again.
What happened to personal responsibility? What happened to the buck stops with the person at the top? And the FCC and Ajit Pai have been repeating this lie for a year or more at this point, that a hack took down the comment system. So tons of people who wanted to comment about the net neutrality repeal couldn't. And it just wasn't true. The FCC Inspector General investigated, found that the claim of a hack was a total lie. And of course, the real reason that the system went down, there's sort of two possibilities. One is much worse than the other, okay? Possibility one is that so many millions of Americans were against the net neutrality repeal that they wanted to make their voices heard, period. And that led to so much traffic that the comment section went down on the FCC's website. That's like the less sinister explanation. The more sinister explanation is that the FCC took down the comment section to prevent those comments from being made in the first place. And we don't know which one it is. As far as the so-called apology goes, this could be one of the most bogus apologies we've heard recently. I apologize for the fact that an Obama person lied. The follow-up part of this is whether Ajit Pai knew he was lying all along. Ajit Pai is saying that's a conspiracy theory. He included in his statement about this the following quote, "I'm pleased that this report debunks the conspiracy theory that my office or I had any knowledge that the information provided by the former CIO was inaccurate and was allowing that inaccurate information to be disseminated for political purposes." We'll see whether that's a conspiracy theory. It's kind of hard for me to believe that Ajit Pai and the higher-ups at the FCC were told this is a hack. They had a ton of data to review related to whether it was a hack. They looked at the data, presumably, and they still came away thinking it was a hack when there was no actual evidence that they got hacked. I don't know that I believe that Ajit Pai wasn't just parroting something he knew wasn't true.
Yeah, signs show, I think, that this was taken down deliberately, and then you'd have to hold Ajit Pai accountable for that. And just, it goes to this bigger picture that even though it's the FCC and they're the government, they're supposed to be working for the people, they don't really care what you have to say. If you disagree with them, they'll take you down, they'll shut you down. They just want to listen to the corporate interests.
That's the bummer at the bottom line, which is we're sort of debating over what was the reason why people against repealing net neutrality weren't able to make the comments. The truth is that even if they were able to make the comments, it was getting repealed either way, right? Like the FCC never cared what public opinion was. They and Ajit Pai are tools of the NCTA, the cable lobby, and the ISPs, and everybody else who has a financial interest in repealing net neutrality. And it's silly to even pretend like, oh, you know, if they had just gotten 500,000 or 1 million more comments against the repeal, they wouldn't have repealed it. Of course not. They were repealing it no matter what. And I actually want to take it a step further. This is something that is resignation worthy in my mind. When we talk about creeping authoritarianism and the authoritarian slide under the Trump administration, it's really scary to realize that a federal agency can lie to everybody about what happened, possibly knowingly, use that lie to say that they, or to effectively ignore the opposition to what they're doing, which is the killing of net neutrality. They later admit that it was a lie, but they get to keep the repeal as if the lie is irrelevant. And the truth is that in the end, the lie is irrelevant because the comments were going to be irrelevant and Ajit Pai should be fired. The buck should stop with him. Personal responsibility. He's in charge. Blaming the culture of the Obama administration for this is a joke. And at worst, they took down the comment section, which is a form of, if they did it deliberately, government limiting free expression.
Well, Ajit Pai could, in theory, be impeached by the Senate. Only problem is those senators are also bought and paid for by the ISPs and the telecom companies.
I would not hold my breath for even 10 seconds, hoping that the Republican Senate is going to punish Ajit Pai for lying. That is, I mean, it's inconceivable that that would take place. So, are you surprised about this? Not really. Are we dismayed by it? We are. But it is just yet another instance of this decided and definitive creep towards authoritarianism and a government that eliminates checks and balances, ignores the will of the people. And this is what we've got to look forward to if Democrats don't take over the House and Senate in 2018. And certainly if Donald Trump is reelected in 2020, it is going to continue creeping to the point where we might call it, what's the next thing after creeping? Walking? I don't know.
I think it's there.
It's there. You're just at authoritarianism. We'll eventually get there. That's exactly right. Discuss this with us on the David Pakman Show subreddit, davidpakman.com/REDDIT. And if you're not following the show on Instagram at David Pakman Show, please do. I will be answering questions there after today's show. Submit your question at David Pakman Show on Instagram. Today's program brought to you in part by Blinkist.com/Pakman. Blinkist is a great service that I use all the time. What they do is they take thousands of the most popular nonfiction books, including the newest bestsellers. They condense them into 15-minute audiobooks that you can listen to, and you still get the most crucial information and insights from each book. And I've listened to a ton of books on Blinkist. I recently checked out Soccernomics by Simon Cooper. We do have, after all, the World Cup going on recently. We also have been talking about BS Jobs, and there is a great new book, BS Jobs by David Graeber, which I listened to on Blinkist. They're constantly adding new books to the platform. You will never run out of fascinating and critically acclaimed books to enjoy. And our audience can get a 7-day free trial by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm putting a link in the video description. And after the free trial, if you like it, you can continue enjoying thousands of condensed audiobooks for about $5 a month. That's BLINKIST.com/PAKMAN.